Thanks for coming back a second time. So for those of you who are joining us, this is actually our second time we're trying to record. So it's a take two, because the first time we had all kinds of recording issues, and thankfully you're willing to record again. And we like to hang out, so it was very cool to have you back. And now some people who are watching this, most of them are women, are going to go, wait a minute, that's not a woman. No. And I think I told you this on the first recording. I don't know if it was my husband. Somebody said to me, well, then just have them wear a dress if it's an all-female podcast. And I just said, yeah, no, I can't tell him that. He'll come all painted up. He'll have a dress on. He'll be in character.
It's highly probable.
Yeah. And actually, I intentionally invited you on specifically. You know, I'm a believer in breaking my own rules. And although this is a female podcast geared towards women, I think you are a perfect guest to have on here. And because when we met, it was like you and we can complete each other's sentences or know where each other is going, as far as like every time we talk, it's literally we have some of the same writings in our books. And we're going to talk about yours. But I invited you on this all-female podcast because I think your story will encourage wives, mothers, grandmothers, aunts, friends who have men in their life who they desperately either want to get well, or their marriage is on the line, or they are just stuck in a relationship, or they have a loved one who's really not in the best place. And you and I know nobody could want you to get well more than you do. And so that is why I wanted you on here, because you've been there. You've been a mess.
Still am.
You're in progress, but you took steps that some women just long for the men in their life, their sons, fathers, husbands, whatever, long to see them take. And so I wanted to have you on here to share some of your story, to be an encouragement. One, for women, for some, they're praying, oh God, help us, you know, and for others, they're in it and they don't know how much longer they can take. And so we're going to talk about some of that today. So thanks for chatting with me. Before we talk about you, though, I want to talk about your loved ones, because usually when I have women on here, I like to ask them, you know, tell me about your children in particular. Give me a couple words about each one of your kids, but I don't even want to start with your kids. I want to talk about your wife.
Everybody does.
So can you, so can you give me, because when I have her on here, I'm probably going to ask her to tell me about you. Give me 2 words that describe your wife.
Firecracker. If I could combine those two to keep that as one, she's a firecracker.
Yeah.
And she's very direct, which is what I needed. That's the one thing early on. I loved her because she challenged me. She wasn't one to I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but she wouldn't put up with my crap, right? And it wasn't necessarily bad stuff. It was, you know, even like with my daughters when they were kids, this was long before we had Alexa. I don't want to say it too loud because she'll come on. But long before we had the internet and Alexa, when the girls were little, they could ask me a question. And I would go, oh yeah, this is the, you know, whatever. And they would just go, okay. And off they would go. And there was no way to question it. Right. And so I feel like that didn't just stop. Somebody would ask me, you know, a question and be like, oh yeah, this is it. And just go. And so she was the first one that said, no, wait a minute, I'm going to look that up. That doesn't sound right. And it was like, oh, okay, well, you're going to keep me in check. I need that. And it's funny, like when you read the book and you know the story, you can actually see that come through as this is how we got there. So yeah, firecracker and just very direct.
Well, tell me about the firecracker side. Why did you pick that word?
She's a hoot. Like we have had, quite honestly, some of the best times of my life, some of the worst times of my life. We've had some of the best laughs. And then just surprises, things that we end up into something that was just never, never thought this is where we would be. And she just keeps it exciting and fun. She's always herself. And yeah, she's a hoot.
I love that. Yeah. Now tell me about your kids.
So
you have how many
I have
kids?
2 daughters, older daughters. Savannah is her birthday today, so called.
Oh, happy birthday,
called
Savannah!
She
How
is
old?
27 today.
Cool. I have a son. He'll be 27 in June.
So she was
good
born
age.
in the 1900s with me. She was just at the edge of that.
Yeah.
She has a daughter who will be 3. So our first granddaughter, Juniper, who will be 3 in December on Christmas. And then Rebecca will be 23, 24 is 26. She'll be 24 in September. And then there's Turbo the Destroyer, Jace. Jace is, he just turned 9 in May. Well, it still is May. He just turned 9.
Oh, 9's such a cute age, though, still for boys, I think. It's like they're still little kids, not yet too cool. They're just starting to get, like, I have a grandson, he's about to turn 11, and he's showing some of those signs of, like, super cute, but then gathers, like, oh, wait a minute, I'm cool.
We're there.
But still so cute.
We're there.
Yeah.
So it's, I remember this with the girls, too, but you're at that age where it's, life is normal, and then all of a sudden there's like a hug and I love you out of nowhere, and it was like, okay, I'll hold on to that one for a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cute. They're fun. And all our kids are, I love just each, so we have 5 and all of ours are, there's this thread that is similar. Like you can see these threads that are similar, but mine are so different. You have these families. I don't know if all your kids are like this, but you can look at a family and go, yep, you're a, whatever the last name is, you come from that family. I have cousins like that. You can look at them and you're like, oh yeah, you're definitely all siblings from those 2 parents. My kids they all look different. You can look at mine and go, none of them look the same. Are yours like that?
Savannah is, she's her mom. Very much personality, looks. There's no question. Rebecca is, unfortunately, she has some of my features. And then personality, she's got, I feel like, a lot of my personality. Jace is 100% his mother. There's no in between with that. And they're actually with their cousins this week. And if you line up the 3 boys, you would swear they were all brothers. Like, they look identical.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, strong genes.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's fun. They're fun. I love kids. Do you live by your grandchild?
I don't. They're in Nashville.
Paul, there's something else we have in common. My gosh, this is so scary. Mine's just south of Nashville.
They're in Nashville.
Yeah. Wow. How long have they been there? Long time?
So I lived in Nashville before I moved to Texas. I went to high school in very rural West Tennessee. Moved to Nashville. Lived in Nashville for 8 years, I believe, before I moved to Austin.
Wow. Is that where you are right now?
In Fort Worth.
Austin?
So I was in Austin for 9 years, and then I moved
that's what I
here.
thought.
I'm old when I start adding all this up. I moved here in 2011, so 15 years here now.
Wow. Okay. Yes, my daughter's in Chapel Hill. Yeah. They love it. They absolutely love it.
It's beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, they love everything about it. They left here. They lived here for a while. Now they live there raising their babies. But yeah, and my grandchildren are definitely little country bumpkins running around out there in Tennessee.
Hillbillies. That's it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Adorable. Very cute. Yeah, he just went to his first hunting class, and yeah, it's fun. Okay, so for some of you that listen to this podcast, you may think that I just do a podcast, but I do. I have my own publishing company. It's the Grit and Grace it's called Grit and Grace Publishing, but I have two imprints. One is Grit and Grace. It's for all women. But the other one is called Lions Inc., INK. And that imprint for our company is for men and women, whether it's business, personal, self-help, whatever. And Paul, we published Paul's first book. We're now on his second book, but we published his first book with Lions Inc. And so my passion, my heart is, I'm a full believer in stories. You actually even talk about it in your book, like right in the beginning, like I think it's Note to Reader. And you talk about, if you wrote this book, if you could help one person, and I literally wrote on the side of, it's page 4, I hope sharing this journey helps someone else face their own storm. I hope I can simplify these ideas in a way that's honest and clear. And I hope the passion and conviction behind these pages come through. And most of all, I hope that something in here helps someone and gives them something that can pass on to someone who looks up to them. Stuff like that just fires me up because it's the reason why I am publishing. One, I'm a writer and I wanted to have my own imprint, but 2, I want to publish people who want to help other people get well, who just want to help in this journey called life. And I think it takes a village, not just to raise kids, but to live life. And so the title.
Well, I was going to say, we don't know it all, right? And that's one of the things I talk about in there is.
Wait a minute. Did you just say, I gotta like time out for a second because you're a man. Did you just say you don't know it all?
I'm very first to admit that. And that's in the early pages too, right? It's this journey, that whole thing I couldn't have done it on my own. If it weren't for the people that got me here, I wouldn't be here. And
now you mean the people who got you here, meaning your entire life, or are you just talking
both? But especially in this, right? The funny, we would talk about things that, wait a minute, you're a guy, the therapist. You don't hear many guys talk about their therapist. And I couldn't have done it. I had a conversation yesterday. It's just amazing how these things go. Very good friend of mine. I talk about this and they're the people that are around us. And I focus more on the negative side. Right? The people around you can drag you down. And it's important to have the good people. And he's one of them. And we were talking about something yesterday. And it was like, man, this is just bad. I'm just struggling with this. I'm having a hard time. And he said, I can clearly see where your frustration is, but have you stopped and looked at it from her perspective? And I was like, no. Now it makes sense, right? I don't want to. It's easier to stand here and say, well, that's and there's no fault in it, really. It's just understanding how a situation or how somebody else is coming to a situation, what they're bringing to it, and how what you're doing is impacting them. And that's a lot of what happened here. It was, what am I doing? Again, Kristen being that very direct. It was the first time in my life that I stopped and went, what the heck am I doing? Right? The only thing constant in my life is me. I've been here through all of it. And what am I doing? Why do I keep doing this? Why does this keep happening to me? Why do they keep doing this to me? And it took a lot of deep reflection, a lot of time, difficult. It's not easy. Again, it's not easy to go, oh, well, that was my fault. I got to fix that. So it was, it was a powerful moment yesterday to have.
Yeah. You talk about the why me, why did this happen? Why, in my own journey, really early on, literally as I sat about to go into another counselor, I was like so done with counseling, right? But God finally broke me. I was at this point of surrendering and I just didn't get it. And I literally wrote out, I just was like, if I'm finally going to do this, I got to do this because, there are really, and this isn't to really say that we don't like counselors, period. There's a lot of counselors out there. You're like, this person should not be counseling. Right? That you just sit, you can figure out if you don't really want to get well and you're going through the motions for somebody else because somebody else told you should be going to counseling, like within one half of a session, how to get by that counselor and how to just sound right. Well, I finally broke and I was like, all right, this is this counselor I'm going to. And I wrote out all these. I just didn't get life. So it made me think about it when you just said all the whys. And I still have it, all the whys. I had so many whys. Mm-hmm. Why this? Why that? Why that? And all the way back until I had no more. And for some, I've heard over the years, oh, that's, you could look at it as maybe victim mentality, and you could look at it in the negative. It actually was very self-discovery for me. It actually led me to a really good place. That was when I was taking ownership. I wasn't looking at that point in my life to blame anybody. I was looking to get at a root. Yeah. Like, why? Because there's a reason why. And I knew, because my heart cry was, this was my last stitch to try to throw up a prayer to God. I was like, if you can just help me understand why I am the way I am. It all kind of fell into this. Why am I like this? Why do I do the things I do? Why do I react? Why do I have trust issues? Why? Then I'd be forever grateful. And honestly, at that point in my life, Paul, I thought I was going to hell. Seriously thought. And here I was, I believe Jesus, all the things. But I still thought, I'm going to hell, because for the first time in my life, I was just kind of taking ownership of my entire life, like all of it, the baggage, the pain, the stuff I caused, the things that were done to me. I just finally and I want to understand, okay, why? And I think asking those questions, why, sometimes are the greatest whys and questions you can ask.
I 100% agree. And I've said this before because I would hope that nobody ever finds himself in a 12-step program. Let's just be honest about it. Whether you're in the Al-Anon or an AA or an NA side, I would hope that nobody finds himself there. But if you need it, God bless you. And I'm glad you did find it, because they do help. But I think the 12 steps, when you look at what the 12 steps walk through, and you get to that fourth step, right, I'm going to write out all the ways that people wronged me. And brother, that was easy. I took a notepad and a pen and I filled up pages of how everybody, every institution, the bank, the government, my mom, you name it, it was out there. And then I sat down with my sponsor and I said, all right, I did it. And he goes, perfect. Now go back through there and write your role in each of those. And I was like, my role? This isn't about me. What are you talking about? There's nothing wrong. I've been telling you that for months. There's nothing wrong with me. It's all them. Look, I got pages of them. And what I started to get to is I have a role in everything. And so we could take something, significant, somebody assaults me. Well, I don't have a role in that. I do have a role in it, not in what happened, but in how I deal with it and what I do with it. If I let it keep me in that victim state, that's my role. So everything that happens to me after that was my chance to clean it up. It doesn't excuse what somebody else did, or it doesn't make it right even. That's still a bad thing. You physically assaulted me, you emotionally, sexually, whatever it was. That's a very, very, very bad, horrible thing. And you should, receive whatever justice or repercussions there is for that. But my responsibility is, what did I do with that? And so that's what I found in a lot of these things, is there were a lot of things, especially as a child, that happened that I was like, oh, I didn't have anything to do with that. I was a kid. I couldn't do anything. But I carried that with me. That became the baggage. We all talk about our baggage. This is the baggage that I carried with me. And I took some of these things into every relationship I was in. And then, okay, well, why have you been divorced so many times? Okay, well, remember back there when I was 8 and I didn't take care of that? Yep, this is my fault. It had nothing to do with this person. So that's one of those things, the biggest takeaways, and there are a lot, when you get into the later steps, but really taking ownership of those things, writing them down and owning them and really looking at them it's one of the most powerful things I think I've ever done. Right. And that's why they call it a fearless moral inventory, like a searching and fearless moral inventory. I think everybody should do it once.
Yeah. I think you can't, and this makes sense when you think construction, right? You have this house that's falling down or it's in need of deep repair. Say, oh, that needs tender love and care, that house. We're going to remodel it. We're going to flip it, right? And so you could go in there and you could go, okay, and you could take it from top to bottom, inside out, and go, here's what needs to happen. It's a gold mine if you can fix it. And some people are like, oh, I don't have the energy for it. Others are like, oh, I could see past all the stuff and I see the gold. I don't think our at least I found my life and the women I work with who are willing, and men, because we do a lot of marriage work, when somebody's willing to go, okay, I'm ready. I'm just ready. I'm done with me. I got to do something. And it's the mirror work. And you are willing to go, I take full ownership for you, not for my husband, not for all the X, Y's, and Z's that hurt me in the past. I take full ownership for you in the mirror. And now let me do the inventory. And that seems like, and so many will go, oh, I don't want to know. And I'm like, no, you do. It actually isn't as scary as you think it's going. You spend so much time thinking how scary, I don't want to go through it again. I went through it once, I don't want to go through it again. It's what I used to tell myself. And yet when I actually opened up that closet and went, all right, let me now clear this clutter out. It wasn't as scary as I thought it was. And it wasn't as hard as I thought it was. Like, your life can turn around faster than you can imagine. It won't be fixed totally, but it will head in the right direction, and you will experience some freedom faster than you actually been thinking. It's because here's what I used to say to myself: it's going to take forever. It's going to take years to work through all the baggage I got. I don't have time for that. I got to raise kids. I don't have time.
First things first, right? What?
Yeah, and they matter. And yet, what our kids really need us to do is just, I need you to get good because I need you good, because then my life is better when you get good. Example. It's so simple.
Kids live what they kids learn what they live. I won't give that one away. That's book 3. We'll have to talk about it in there.
Yes,
we got to get through 2 first.
Yep.
But these are the thing. There's a saying, you're only as sick as your secrets. And when I first heard that, it's like, I don't know what that means. My secrets aren't that sick. But then you start doing it, and it's like, okay, until I get this out, it will continue to eat at me. It will eat at me like a cancer. Like, it's just, I have to deal with this. I have to address it. And those were the things. And it's all important because these are the only things I should be addressing anyway. What my spouse is doing, I can't do anything about. I can't make them get sober. I can't make them be nice. I can't make them do what I think they should do. All I can do is me. I can only fix and change and work on me. So I might as well do it.
Mm-hmm. My husband used to, we can look at some of this stuff now because we're 20 plus years in, but when we were first still falling apart, but still trying to rebuild, like, it was those early stages of like, okay, I think we're not done, but we're not good yet. He spent so much time trying, and he did this early in our marriage, which kind of made me go into my shell. But it was really freeing to hear him say, here is what I'm actually doing to you, and I'm really sorry, and I'm not going to do that anymore. But he would put strings, like he would try to convince me, because we get passionate about what we believe is the answer. It's just, it was his communication style. And it was just, he wanted so much for me to see it his way, but he was trying to force me to see it his way. And the more he did that, the more it closed me off to go, you're not listening, just, okay, whatever. I would just shut down. But when we can finally go, okay, you are free to think for yourself and to see things yourself and Here's how I feel about it, and be okay with we're not even seeing it the same way is a huge growth for a couple, I think.
Well, and I think the,
Right?
the key piece in that, and it's so crazy how this applies. I was just having this conversation in the office earlier because this is it's universal. It's wild.
Yeah.
Communicating, period. So many times we draw back and you hear, well, you should have known, or you should just know, right? Or, I can't believe you didn't know. How would you not? Like, I've heard all those things and I've said some of those. Or for me, it's not even that. It's the snarky comments that come because you didn't know. I'm not even going to address the fact that you didn't know. You should have. And it's like, we can't. None of us are mind readers. Right? If you need something, if you want something, you have to communicate it. And if you didn't receive it the right way, stop. Hey, when you said this, what did you mean? Like, what was going on? And that's, again, to go back to that conversation with David last night, my friend David, it was very, I never thought about it that way. I never looked at it that way. But when I do, it makes sense. And I can't control what was happening on the other side of the street. I can only control what I did. And I can look at it and see, oh, well, if I changed this, then this is probably what would happen. Okay, that makes sense. And that communication. And I struggled with it. For a long time, the fear of having difficult conversations, the reality is the conversations it's not that tough when you finally do it. It's like being on the water slide for the first time or the diving board in the pool, and it's terrifying the first time. And you watch a kid, as an adult now, you can watch the kids do it, and they stand there and they freeze, and it's like, oh my God, this is let me think of everything that can go wrong. And then they just do it. And then it's like, oh, well, that wasn't so bad. We do it. And those difficult conversations, I think, are the same way. We get so caught up in, or at least I did, so caught up. I still do. Let me rephrase that. I get caught up in, oh my God, how are they going to receive this? Well, what if I say this and they do this? I have the whole conversation out in my head before it ever happens. And then we have it, and it's like, I'm just going to be direct. This is what happened. This is how I perceived it. This is what I'm going to do. This is my side of it. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, well, okay, when you did that, I did this, and I apologize. I'll work on that. It's like, well, that didn't go at all like I thought it was going to. And it's just that communication is so important. Even if you get it wrong, having it and working through it is the right answer. It's the only way to get better, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have found, in particular, especially in marriage, because it's your closest relationship. It'll be the one that probably takes some of the hardest hits. It'll be the one that'll push you beyond your comfort zone more than besides your kids. It'll push you beyond your comfort zone. We think marriage, we just think life's going to be wonderful, and he's wonderful, she's wonderful, and
then it all gets hard.
And then it gets real, and real life hits. And I have found, this is true in everybody in my life, but in particular, especially marriage, since we're talking about marriage, is the best way I can love him, and you said this before, is to look at it through his perspective, is actually, I'm a full believer, is to take your own shoes off and put on theirs. Because you will see it from a totally different side. And I actually learned this from a moment when I used to live in Texas through my own mother-in-law. Ooh. Yeah. Mom to mom, woman to woman, to not have anything, no filter, but just to go, wait a minute, Dana, I had to have a mindset shift to spend time with her, and we were out, and it's like, take your shoes off and put on hers. That doesn't mean you agree with the person, that you are, like, none of that. That is just purely, it helps you listen better. It takes out all the judgments that you have for whatever reason. We do this with everybody. I know what she's going to say. I know what she's going to do. All of those that we do, the reasoning. and instead just step into their shoes just for a second. When I tell you, I broke. I bonded with her in a way that I have not bonded up till that point in my life with a lot of other people who were, in a sense, in that point in my life, easier to love. But I bonded with her in a different way that I don't think that bond can break on that level. Because I wasn't trying to figure out, fight with her, judge, protect myself. It was just to hear her to another human being. And I broke. And I think if people would actually do that, and the problem is people don't want to lay aside their own ego to do that. You're not saying you agree with how they vote and what they believe in and what they're doing and how they see it. It's your listening and being present.
Understanding things from a different perspective. It's funny because when we talk marriage, and I just heard this recently, and it made me tear up a little bit, and then I really just sat with it for a while. But your spouse is the only person in your life that loves you by choice. Your kids love you because you're their parent. Your parents love you because you're their child. Your siblings and relatives love you because you're there. But your spouse chose you. And it's so easy to go, I just don't want to choose that anymore. I don't want to choose. We talk about marriage being hard. And I think what I found especially is the hard is making the choice. I'm going to make the choice to do this every day. And there was a speaker I heard that was talking about the relationship with her and her husband. And she said, one of us always, we hear them say, I got 1 foot out the door, always 1 foot out the door. And that's so easy to see when somebody is there in a relationship. But more of us spend time with our hand on the doorknob. We don't have a foot out the door, but our hand is on the doorknob. And I was like, no, nobody does that. And I started looking and I was like, oh, man. My hand was on the doorknob because, if you come home drinking one more time, I'm going. If you say this, I'm going. I'll just leave. Yeah. And it just, it can't be. And so getting away from that and fully being present here and then choosing every day, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to be. We made this choice. We're going to get through it. There's no physical violence, that sort of thing. I would tell anybody, if you're in a physically violent situation, don't
Agreed.
Don't do that. And we had that luxury where there's no physical, stuff going on. And so that made it, but it was easy to say, I choose this and I'm going to, I'm going to die to self every day. I'm going to give up myself. I'm going to sacrifice myself. And I don't mean my selfish. I'm sacrificing everything. I'm giving up my selfishness. This isn't about what I want.
Yeah, take me more into that, because I agree with you 100%. But a lot of people, especially if you're talking Celebrate Recovery, going into support groups, you're talking a lot of codependency behavior, unlearning the dysfunctional way to respond and survive in life, and learning how to do it differently in a healthy way. So we can move into thriving. You and I have been working on that now for a little bit. And when people hear that, I always have to say, okay, loving somebody and sacrificing, it doesn't mean you become the doormat. That doesn't mean, oh, well, he'll eventually change. Oh, that's okay. No,
and that was one of the first things that I had to do. And this goes back to the inventory and the reason to start there and to get through it, the things that you carry. So one of the things I carried with me, codependency. Codependency starts in your childhood. This starts from the first relationships you have, which are with your parents. So that codependency comes a long time, or comes with you for a long time. And I had to work on the codependency. So while the marriage was stalled, I don't want to say it was, it was just there. She was working on her things. I was working on my things, which honestly both of us should have done long before we ever got married. Here's the magic bullet,
sure.
the easy button for those who want to know how marriages work. Work on all this stuff before you get married. Yeah,
who does that?
Who'd have thought?
Most don't. Most don't.
And that's because you don't know, right? Until you're in that situation where you have to face it. And I think that's one of the things that happens with marriage. You know, we talk about a relationship, my boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. You don't face the same things you do in a marriage. When everybody says a marriage gets tough, that's where you have to face these things. You don't have a choice. I chose to be with this person. Now, this is a situation that's happened, and we have to figure out how to move through this. But I think that's the key was addressing the codependency first. Before I even understood the dying to self and you know, sacrificing, I had to address the codependency. I was codependent, didn't know it. Guy could be codependent. Here we are. If you leave me, it's the worst thing that's ever going to happen to me. I don't know what I'm going to do. My life is going to be over. Please, please, please. Right? And now I'm at the point where if that's what you decide is best for you, I mean, you need to do it. I'm not going to be happy. I don't want you to leave. But if that's what you need to do for you, then go do it. So I had to work through that point to address, okay, my ego is my problem. How do I set aside the ego? And I don't always get it right. Again, this conversation last night, it started out very ego, very she. Look what she's doing to me. Something I thought I wouldn't say again. And you know, and then David kind of hit it, sacrificed a little bit. Look at your role in this. Look at what you're doing, and then look at it from her shoes. See how she's seeing it. And it was like, oh, okay, I can see that now. I can see why that would be, why I could handle that differently, how I could make that better. I do believe that you have to be there. I don't believe being a doormat. When you become codependent, you are a doormat. I don't think you have to be anybody's doormat. You shouldn't be. If you feel like you are, address the codependency issues first and foremost.
Didn't you have to address identity issues though too? See, because for me, you know, I had eating disorder, codependency. You know, it's learned behavior, coping behavior, and there are things that I worked on when I worked on me, and this is where I think people in their head assume it's going to be too much work. I can't. It's going to take forever. And we stuff it again, and we numb out again, and we just stay busy again. Or we actually, sometimes people think it's only going to be the destructive behavior that we're just going to get involved in. Some people are the ones who look so put together. They do it all. They do it all well. They're perfectionists. They're control freaks. They run a bunch of different things, and they look very successful. And yet it is actually just a distraction. And, it's just something to keep you from actually what's really going on that you need to face. But for me, it was more of, I had I had this idea, it's going to take a very long time, and I don't have a long time. My kids need me. And yet it didn't take as long as I thought. And once I started working on me and not staring at the problem and who did it, working on my own identity and who I am, actually my problems, I didn't even have to face some of them. Like my eating disorder, I never concentrated on my eating disorder. I actually concentrated on me, and it just kind of
a lot of other things do.
Right? So I think, and sometimes I think when we go into, and there again, I don't want to disrespect counselors. I think sometimes the problem is when you go into a counselor, you can spend so much time talking about in micro, you know, trying to unravel and talk about the issue instead of focusing on that person and growing themselves.
What's interesting, and I mentioned this in Where Are My Feet? For me, one of the things I found, and I'm going to overstate this a little bit so that it has the impact, but I feel like I weaponized therapy. Right? This is a chance for me to show her that she's wrong and that they agree with with me. And
Yes,
yeah,
we do
for
the same
years
thing.
for me, like if I were to go to previous marriages, and I hate that I have to say that in plural,
Sure.
we went through counseling. And I look at why it wasn't productive. It had nothing to do with the counselor. They did what they were supposed to do, but I wouldn't let it get to the deep, healing, because everything was about, I'm going to show you that you're wrong. It was ineffective. And then inevitably what happens is you hit the point, again, this is all ego. You hit the point where it's, you either get the agreement, you're right that you shouldn't do that. And it's like, victory. We don't need this anymore now. See, I'm right. Or they hit a nerve. They hit a pain point. And you go, oh, no. We're not going there. We're done with therapy. It just doesn't work. And so when I went through with therapists this time, and I went through different therapists for different reasons, phenomenal. All of them had their strengths. And they were for different reasons at different points. I started, she look at what she's doing. She's got me in a program, and I'm, we're getting a divorce, and this is horrible. And it didn't take long where she was like, my first therapist was, let's talk about how you're doing. Let's focus on you for a minute. And that was before I really started looking at the guy in the mirror and addressing those things. And I found the therapy session started going more productively. Let's talk about me. Let's talk about these. That's how we got into some of the childhood things. That's what led down the path of, identifying, holy crap, I'm codependent. Who knew? How do we fix it?
Well, who even knew what that? Did you know what codependency was prior to going through that?
Because everybody that dated me was codependent. They didn't, that's the reality. Is you don't really know what that is, but it's easy to say, you're codependent.
That's funny.
And until you dig into it and you start realizing where it came from, what it stems from, where it starts, how to identify it, and how to move through it. You don't see it.
Yeah.
Except for in everybody else. Everybody else is codependent.
Of course. Yeah, of course. So now tell me, so this wasn't your first marriage. You get to your marriage. Can you just give just a little bit, because the title of your book is Where Are My Feet? Searching for Solid Ground. So obviously you're not writing this book you're now closer to the top of the mountain than down in the valley, but you were not in a good place, and you share this in your book. But can you just, for the listener, what was life like? You had a really hard day. Life
was crazy.
Yes.
To be in the valley is understatement. It was scary. There was the day I didn't go too deep into detail with this, but there was the day that it was like I was done. There was one way out, and I was taking it.
Yeah.
So it got pretty dark, and I got through those things. I don't know how, but so I started writing, and that was it was something I always enjoyed. I'd written for my whole life. I started, junior high school. I just enjoyed it as something, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So this was a writing. It was on my computer. Nobody was going to ever see it. Nobody was going to find it. And I did, and I put it out. And I think I've said this. I know I've said it to you, and I believe I said it in there in the book, is if I'd have published it the way it was originally written, number one, I think you would have read it and said, yeah, we're not going to be a good fit, But ultimately what happened is I started running into people, and that was a wild thing. I didn't go a lot into depth here. I talk about the people that were put in my life, but there were a lot of things that happened that I couldn't explain, that I feel like God made paths cross and things happen for a reason. And so I met somebody in a meeting who was sharing, about things that they were going through, and I was like, oh, I've lived this. Hey, I wrote this thing. Let me give you a couple of paragraphs, because I think these paragraphs, I can't give you the whole thing because I talk about how horrible everybody is, but these 2 paragraphs I think could be. So I started giving the pieces out to people, and it was like, oh, this is pretty helpful. And all of it is like, I'm not some smart genius super healer magical person. These were just things that people had said to me, that either they said it in a way that just made sense, or I was able to process it in a different way. And so it was just things that people had said or that I had heard, put in a cleaner, softer, more direct way that made sense. And so when I went back and started rewriting, I started taking out the useless stuff, and then I would go back and read it. And some of the things I was seeing is, it wasn't like a self-help book that tells you these are all the things you do wrong. Every chapter was more like, hey, this is what happened. This is what I heard, and this is how I used it to get through it. Maybe it helps.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of bad days, bad nights, bad weeks, bad months. People ask how long it took to write, and it's like, oh, I wish I could say it took 3 weeks, because
Sure.
that would be amazing. But a lot of the things I had to live through first. We get to the chapter Grace, which was a chapter that I think that was the chapter that held up the book, from originally being anything done with it, because it hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And so it was, again, one of those divine interventions of, it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready. And now it is. And as soon as that chapter happened, it's like one thing happened after another. I created a cover. I reached out to a friend, and she goes, do you want my opinion? And I was like, yeah, I respect you. You're a book published author. Like, I have very high respect for you. And she goes, the cover doesn't work. And she said, let me connect you with somebody. And she connected me to the amazing Tracy, and Tracy created the most beautiful cover I've ever seen on a book, in my opinion. I'm biased. And so she did the cover, and I was like, I can tell everybody I've got a book because it's got a cover and it's got insides and it's done. And then Tracy asked, what are you going to do? I was like, well, I don't know. Let me ask you. You're an expert. Where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And, she said, I got some people I want to introduce you to. And then the rest was history. So it's like, when that chapter finished, even though everything had taken years, that chapter was written. And then it just, like, bam, before I know it, I'm waking up going, I have a book on Amazon. I got people texting me, telling me, hey, I'm on the second go through. I'm in tears. I recommended this to a friend.
You even gave it to some coworkers, didn't you? And you were shocked that they read it or something?
I was. So I'd given copies. I probably, not quite now, but I've probably given out over 50 copies now to different things. One went to a sober living house. A friend was telling me their story, and so I sent one there, and I signed it, but I also asked them, because I know in that environment it'll be passed on from person to person. So I asked, sign it, put your name in here, put your sobriety date in here, and leave it for the next person.
Yeah.
And I would love one day to be, somewhere and then see that and see pages of signatures of people that read it. And
that
so,
would be cool.
It helped. I took some to coworkers, and I'm in technology, but in the construction space. So most of the people I deal with are big, burly, manly men kind of things. And, I was terrified. This is a very vulnerable book.
Yeah.
It exposes a lot of things that a lot of people could look at and go, "Ah, oh, you're so weak for that," or admitting codependency. What guy admits he had codependency issues? So there's a lot of vulnerable pieces in it, and so I wasn't too excited about it being out there for people to read to begin with. But something just said, "Take it. You're going to give it to your team, and they're going to read it." And it's like, okay. And so I did. And I went in the next morning, and one of the guys I didn't expect to even open it turned around and stuck his hand out. And as I was walking towards him, he said, "Hey, I started reading your book last night." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he shook my hand. He said, "I want to thank you for sharing that." And so I was like, man, that's yeah. And then I've had countless people, tell me I finally finished it. This is what I took with it. I'm hearing people quote pieces from it. First things first, and they'll quote it with that same jazzy attitude as Jace. All right, first things first.
Yeah.
And that's been, those are the things. If and I think day 2, I got a text message from a neighbor, a gentleman, elderly gentleman. He would hate if I called him elderly. A neighbor gentleman that we love. I think of him as a kind of a bonus dad, a bonus grandfather for Jace. He's just an awesome individual. And he messaged me and he said, finished the book, read it. I've already ordered more copies. I've given mine to somebody else. And he said, what's the most amazing thing to see is I can see the difference in your son today from before. And I can see, and I forgot how he worded it, so I'm going to probably misquote this just a little bit, but I can see how he's growing into a young man of God himself. And I can see that transition. And I showed it to my wife and I was like, Kristen, if I never sell another copy or never get another comment, I can't ask for anything better than that. But I did. The comments kept coming. I cried. I've read it 3 times. I saw myself on page 17. This is just amazing. And most of those didn't come from the places I thought they would come from.
Yeah.
You see people, like you talked earlier about people that have it all together and whatever. A lot of the comments came from people that I would say they've got it all together. Yep. And they read it and, oh man, I got to chapter 2 and I had to go back and start over because it just hit me. I had to read it again. I really saw myself there. And those are the things that I can't ask for any more than that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I feel it, boy, when you were talking about your son and the change that somebody else can see. One of the things Patrick and I say is, the biggest people that we think we've made the impact on for the long haul. Do we still make mistakes? Oh, heck yeah. Have we made a lot? Oh, heck yeah. But the change that we're daily choosing to work on ourselves, the biggest impact it has is on our kids and grandkids.
Yeah.
And you have had a dream prior to writing this book. Your dream was to write a book. And I said to you, and when was our second meeting? I think it was.
I think so.
I don't know. It was for a second meeting. I just said, I want to make that dream happen for you. And you're not only on book 1, we're now working on book 2, and I relate to that because I have a dream. My dream is to have a healing center for kids of divorce. And I want to help people rebuild their lives because it's not as hard as we actually think. So when I hear stuff like this, I'm I'm besides your wife and kids and your own little community, I am your biggest fan because I'm cheering you on as somebody who is still doing the work myself. When I watch other people, when some of that work is really genuine, and I see it in you. I see the change in you. I see the confidence building in you just from the little bit that I've gotten to know you.
Right.
You now, one of the funniest, I think, back and forths we had was when you're like, doggone it, Dana. Now you got me writing a second book. I'm up. I'm done. I'm going to keep going. But tell me about your second book.
That was the funny. There are a lot of things that oh man, there's so many things. I could go on for hours with some of the things. But we were scheduled to do the first recording.
Yeah.
And I had gotten a phone call or a text message, started with a text message and then a phone call a few days before. And it was somebody at the church, and they had said, hey, what are you doing Wednesday night? Would you like to come lead the youth ministry? And I was like, yeah, I teach the first through third grade some Sundays. That's fine. What do you need me to do? What's the lesson? What's, I'll figure it out. And he goes, nah, actually, we thought you could talk about your book. And I was like, talk about my book? Why would you want that? These are like, there's not really a story here for kids. And so I was like, let me think about it. And so I started writing an outline of, what could we possibly do? We're not going to talk about marriage and divorce and, alcohol, and we're not going to do that. That doesn't make sense. So I started writing down some ideas, and I was like, whoa, holy cow, personal accountability. Don't worry about what other people think about you. Stay in your own lane. Like, oh, we've got something here. This could work. And so I wrote out an agenda. I messaged him back and said, I'll be there Wednesday. This is, I'm in, 100%. I'm in. Let's do it. And then that Tuesday we had our recording. And you had made a comment in joking, I believe, you should write another book, and I was like, it's not, no, we're not. And then I gave the presentation, we got through it, and the kids started asking really hard questions they weren't that hard, but it was like I could understand why they would ask that. So on the topic of, where are your feet? How do you know where your feet are? And you've got a 10th grader asking that. And it's like, you look down, your feet are right there. And then it hit me again, the realization of that was the whole premise behind the whole thing. Is it so easy to be distracted with everything that's going on in life? My phones are going off, the dogs are barking, my friends are, but my feet are right here. And what makes that so powerful is if I'm ever in doubt, I can look down and I can see exactly where they are. So I took the idea, the questions, like I prayed about it, I thought about it, I came home and I said, man, I'm going to sleep on this. And then I got up the next morning early. I broke out the computer and I started like a what if, what would it do? And so I took the first chapter and I said, let's change this. Let's take out all the stuff. And I think I took out the entire first chapter. And so how we got here left. And so I started with the first one, which I believe when you do that is let it begin with me. And we talk about personal accountability. So let's clean this up. Let's restructure this. Let's get all the bad stuff out. Let's keep the focus here. Let's change the tune a little bit for somebody not in the middle of a midlife crisis. But then at the end of this, let's do what those kids did. Let's identify it. And so each chapter ends with, this is the big idea. This is, what you should take away from this. This is how to identify it. This is how it's going to show up. And then here's a suggestion for how you move through it. And so I sat for literally, that was the Thursday, Friday, I got home from work and I wrote all night Friday.
I haven't slept.
I did. I don't remember what happened Saturday. Kristen was at work. Oh, yeah, Kristen was at work. She's a hairstylist, so she's at work all day Saturday. And Jace was, first thing he said when he got up was, I'm going to go play with my friends. And I was like, okay. And so he walked out the door and I was like, okay. And so I sat and wrote and wrote and wrote and polished and moved and cleaned and changed and deleted to what we now have in editing, which is a slightly different version of this. And what's funny is I didn't think that was going to happen.
because I had the follow up to Where Are My Feet in progress. I think I'm like 8 chapters into it or something, and it talks about what it looks like when you're out of that mess. How do these things show up? And there's a funny, if we have time, I'll share this story with you. I won't share the whole thing because it's funny. I'll save some of it. But Jace and I, because we were talking about, the kids, the impact you have and all of that. And so Jace is like me, like I can stay super calm. But then when the environment around me starts getting a little louder, well, then I'm going to get louder. And when I get louder, my voice is deep, and it sounds way more intimidating than it should, I guess. That's what I'm told. I don't hear it that way. I don't think my voice is that loud.
Yeah.
But Jace will tell me, you scare me when you get loud. And but I watched. He and his mom were going at it, and he's at that age where he's 9 going on 16, and he knows everything. And she said something, and then he argued back, and like it's starting to escalate. And so I stayed out of it because I know what's going to happen if I get in the middle of it. I let them go, and I finally got him off to himself. And I said, Jace, what's going on? And he said, she's yelling at me. She did this. She started yelling at me. I didn't do anything. And I said, okay, I have an opportunity. We're going to try something because I'm going to stay calm. And I said, Jace, who yelled at you? And he goes, she did. She yelled at me. She did this. She said this. And I said, all right, Jace, here's what I want you to do. So the person that's being difficult, I want you to point at the person that's yelling and being difficult. And so he points at his mom, and he goes, she's the one. She did it. She's the one being mean. And I said, all right, so your finger is pointed at the person that's being mean and yelling. And he goes, yes, my finger is pointed at the person. And I said, which one of your fingers is pointed at that person, Jace? And he said, well, that one. And I said, what about the other fingers? Are they pointed at somebody that's yelling and being angry too? And he looked at it, and he started opening his, like I could see in his head, maybe I can point all my fingers at her so none of them are pointed at me. Like I could see the thing in his brain, and that took me back to the early days of Where Are My Feet. If I can just get all my fingers to open and point at them, I don't have to look at them pointing at me. And I could see a little smirk come across his face because he was like, you got me.
Yeah.
and then he was trying to be, whatever. But he calmed down, and we were able to have a conversation at that point. But that was like his first mirror moment, right? As he sat and he looked at it very, very visually, like he stared at his hand and was like, 3 of those fingers they are pointing at me. I do have a role in this. I am yelling too. And it was a powerful
priceless
moment and a great opportunity. It didn't matter. He's 9. He forgot about it 10 minutes later, and we'll have to have that conversation again. It was a super powerful moment. And I got to be, that was a multiple. I got to be where my feet were and be present in that. So that was a big thing with that, and that story's in the second book or the third book, not the second one, which is coming. I did take your advice after the conversation with you and Nikki. We did start a Facebook page dedicated to
love it.
Where Are My Feet?
It's so fun.
I want
it's really,
everybody.
You can tell you're having a great time.
Oh, I'm digging it. I'm digging it every day. And I have a few people that are joining in. I want more people to join in and do it. But like I want people to be in that moment, whatever it is. If it's a bad moment, if you've got bad news, do it, share it. Let us give you support. If it's a happy moment, we want to cheer with you. Yep. And so we're seeing some of those things happen. And that's exciting. And then I talked about David. So David and I are doing, we're co-writing a book together. We've kind of talked about that a little bit. it'll happen when it happens.
Yep.
It's not a huge rush, but we're doing some work together, helping people in business. This is the plan. Helping leaders lead, because that's something we can impact at work.
Yeah.
And if we impact men and women at work, that goes home with them.
Absolutely.
And that started conversations, a whole lot of things. While we were in the midst of everything, Kristen and I had a dream one night, and I never talked to her about it, never shared it with anybody. But I said, man, what would it look like if the two of us could stand in front of a group of people and share some of this stuff and hear her side of it too, and hear all the things I did wrong. Don't take it from me. She'll tell you all the things I did wrong. What if people could hear that and hear what it was like to get through? It wasn't sunshine and rainbows. It wasn't easy. It's still not. There are probably still days that she wakes up. Why are you still here? But I had this dream, and as David and I were building out kind of the foundation of B1 and how this happens, with the idea of if I want to be a good leader, if I want good teammates, well, I need to be a good teammate.
Yep.
If I want to be a good spouse, I need to be a good spouse.
Yep.
And so the naming of the company is kind of based, or the name of the movement, if you will, is based on that B1. And we looked at this from the standpoint of how can we impact businesses, because I was in a business situation that involved private equity, and it's modern business, and this is the way business is, and people get hurt in the process over profit. I don't think billionaires are a bad thing. I don't think big companies are a bad thing. But I think when people do things just for the sake of money, it is. And that's private equity in my experience with it. Everything was about money. People got hurt, and I don't think businesses should be that way. So what can we do to impact leaders, and what can we do to impact companies? Which led to the conversation I got to have with Kristen of, hey, what would it look like if we have the B1 business group plus the B1 organization that David had that was his vision before me, helping youth. And then what if we were in the middle of this with the B1 family, and we were helping families? Like, what would that look like for you? And she teared up and said, I think that would be amazing. So there are things we talk about, the things that we're trying to do, the impact. Like, it's there, it's all on the cusp. It's just how do we get there? And it's just like the book. When the timing's right, it'll all happen.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that. When Patrick and I, before we ever crumbled, we've gone through just rounds of stuff. And when we first got married, our wedding party, the girls, bridesmaids, all gave us a gift to go away to this marriage weekend, which sounds so lovely. And right, we were just going to be this happy couple. But we did that, and we had a great time. I would say compared to what we had to do, we really didn't go very deep. It was one of those, we sat through it. Great stories. There were people now who are my age back then. I was in my 20s. I was listening to 50-something-year-olds. They've gained wisdom. They've gotten kicked in the gut and thrown on the ground a few times in their marriage. Just with experiences in life that happens. It will humble you. So they had it. They had the credibility. And we sat there. And there's just something Patrick and I have always felt that we were called to do something. We didn't know what back then, right? But we sat in that. We had just come home from our honeymoon. Like, we were so new, so broken, so clueless. And we're like, we had this conversation. I can see us doing something like that. Like, we just knew it. It felt real. There's other things where you kind of dream about, and it's like, it's just sounds great. This
Yeah.
one, it kind of felt right. And yet we both said to each other, like, but we're going to have to go through stuff before we get there. We knew it.
Yeah.
And then once we went through it, it's just amazing. That always seems to come back of like, we always knew, yeah, we had to go through some things. And it's kind of like you guys, right? It's like, and the flip side of that, I never thought I would be here doing what I'm doing, because even at one point when I was doing, and I do more work with women than I actually do marriages, but I do marriage coaching and we work with marriages. And in my opinion, I don't have a choice. If a couple needs us, we're there. But I argued with God at one point, like, what am I doing working with like women? Because like, I thought I was supposed to be doing marriage stuff, like, what am I doing? Yeah. And kind of like when you had some of those moments and your wife just, and in a way, I just never thought I'd be working with women. And God clearly goes, Dana, when you help the wife, you help the family. That is marriage work. And it was like, oh, you're right. And that really has been my experience. We could put people through our program all day long. And what we found is there's still a lot of them that get divorced. And you know why? The ones who don't make it go, you know what? I'm done. I'm not willing to do any more. And I'm not judging somebody. Only you know when you've had enough. But it always comes back to doing the mirror work and not going, we'll see. There is it touches more than just the couple. And when you work on yourself, it does more. It's what I love about this book. It's what I love that you're doing for the next generations. Like when you were like, oh yeah, I'm going to talk to these kids. I'm like, how is this ever going to, because this is mainly if you have relationship issues and your own life is affecting it. This is a great book. Like I highly recommend, even if you're okay, you should get this, because someday you might find yourself in this situation where you're challenged. And how do I just be present and get well? And you help people do that. But you can't have a marriage all by yourself.
Nope.
But in particular, when you're working with kids in this second book, I was like, are you kidding me? Of course you can talk to kids. Are like, what? Let's grab them now. I mean, that's my heart with working with parents. Actually, is my heart is actually for the kids.
It's with the kids.
But we don't see it that way, right? It's so,
Nope.
And we think we have to be doing kid work. It's like, no, if I could just say to the kids, like, I hear you and I see you, and I'm going to help you by helping mom and dad. So I'm with you, because I see it so often.
Well, these are the things, oh, I grew up this way. I'm never going to do that. I address this in the next one too. I'm never going to do that. Never going to do that. Never going to,
Yep.
And then you start realizing that not only did I do some of those things, I did worse in some areas. And that's not what I want. I want, Chase, even like when we talk with the leaders, I talked with one of my teammates this week, late yesterday about it. Like, this is what you need to do, right? This is why you need to have this particular conversation. I know you're ready to throw your hands up and just say, I can't do anything, but here's how you need to lead that person. And here's what just happened. You never had somebody come to you and say, here's how I lead. This is how you should lead, or here's how you lead. Maybe not how you should, but here's how you lead. This is what leadership looks like. And so you don't know how to deal with those situations. Communication. Nobody ever communicated with you on these things. So you don't know how to communicate with other people on these things. So I'm just done. I can't do it. Yeah. And so in the case of work, and stop me if this feels familiar, but in the case of work, it looks like, well, you can't do it the way I want, so I'm just going to take it back and do it myself, because nothing can get done if I don't do it.
Of course.
Right. Whereas if I go to this individual and say, okay, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Here's what I would like to know. And I'm going to ask you some questions. And then you're going to answer those questions. And through the answers, you're going to go, oh, that makes sense. I can go do this. So I'm teaching them to think. It's the same thing we should be doing with our kids. Not give me this, I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
It's I'm going to ask the questions and go. So this work with inside the companies it's amazing to me how much of that I'm doing daily now that I didn't know I was doing.
Yeah.
But the impact that has, like this one individual, for example, will tell me, "Oh, I went home and had this with my significant other and child, and we did this, and I was present, and I was doing these," and it's like, okay, he sees that
Yeah.
because he sees a male figure who was around but not present. And Jay saw the same thing. Dad was here, but he was always on the phone. He was dealing with work. He was worried about bills. He was doing this. But Dad is present now.
Yeah.
It's just I'm excited with those things. And again, they're going to happen when they're supposed to.
Yeah.
The book is going to happen as it's supposed to. Books 2 and 3, everything.
I just love that you are actually, it's one thing to tell people what to do. It's another just to help them know how to do it. And you're very practical. Nobody did that. Yeah. I mean, I think all of us can say in some area of life, well, nobody actually taught me how or helped me how. It's just a lot of, especially generationally, I think, everybody's pointing finger. You know how to do it, or you never taught me. And we point all the way, instead of going, okay, what would happen if I actually lived shoulder to shoulder or pouring into one another again? And I think what is beautiful, there's a lot of stuff happening today that's causing more and more division. But I think there's also this tide, at least I'm seeing it. And when I talk to other people about it, they're like, yeah, I'm seeing it too, is there's a lot of people who are tired of the distraction and tired of just the division and going, you know what? I'm kind of over all this stuff. Yeah. I'm just going back to the simplistic kind of stuff. My daughter's one of them, just pouring into her kids the way she does. And some of my kids are doing that. They're doing it in different parts of their life, which is so beautiful to see. But I think it's happening. I think people, we're created for community and together. And we'll destroy it all day long. At some point, you got to go, wait a minute, I'm part of the problem. And all I can fix is me. And so I love that you're doing that. So if people want to, and I love that you're doing that with men, because we need more men who are like you, who are willing to come alongside not only other men at work, helping them at home, but then you're helping the next generation. I want to just say on behalf of all the women listening and for your family, just thank you. Thank you for the time you are taking to get well, to stay well, to own the fact that you have an ego and you don't do it all right. And you're willing to help other guys. I mean, it just, that is not so much a female problem as it is a man problem. We have our own problems. So thank you. I so appreciate what you're doing and who you're becoming. And I love this. So if people, men and women who want to actually join you in this, hey, where are my feet, and be encouraged, where do they find you on Facebook?
So the easiest way to get all of the contacts, everything, all the socials and everything is on my website, carlsontx.com. So if you go to www.carlsontx.com, it gives you everything. Facebook links are there. I do need to update it with the specific Facebook page, but TikTok is there. I try to keep content on TikTok, Instagram, all the socials of just general things that come up, questions that people ask, things that I see that I think should be shared. Maybe I'm delusional still, but it's stuff that goes out there. The Where Are My Feet group, I want to see that grow into something that just makes people laugh. And I do have a few people that call me and say, I saw this post and that made me happy. I was glad to see it.
Oh, they're so fun. And because one, I know you and just your personality, really, you're just so authentic on there, but you are a teacher at heart. You're a leader, and you get that sense that, you're somebody, I think, who is worth following, to learn from. You're a great mentor, I think. And it's fun to watch. Like some of are you ever going to come on there with a blue face?
So, okay, so the blue face, the things I have to say. So we did decide, I don't know if you've seen that part of the conversation, the blue face is going to be the back cover.
Yeah, you told me that
too. So that's happening. Tracy is already excited about that.
Is your wife like that?
She's whatever. So the whole blue face, blue hair stuff started with Vacation Bible School. Because I love this is one thing I got from my mom. Growing up, my mom was always a kid.
Yep.
Like she wanted to, and I think that's because she had us young, so she was robbed of her childhood. But instead of being resentful and like mom doesn't drink, she may have had in her adult life 3 or 4 drinks. Like she's just not a drinker. And so, a lot of people, and I did, I was robbed of my childhood. I'm going to go make up for it. She didn't. She got in there and she does it with the grandkids. We've got pictures of her, playing cars with Jace in the backyard and all the other grandkids. And,
Sounds like my mom.
and it's just a big heart. And that's something I took, from my childhood is, be that kid
Yeah.
because it has an impact on
Yeah.
people, and just have fun. Don't think about it. And so Vacation Bible School came. They break all the grades into different groups, and then every group gets a color, and they encourage you to dress as that color. So the first year I was on the blue team, and
Awesome.
I dyed my beard, my hair, my face, my hands, everything blue. And that, of course, became a big photograph. Last year, I was on purple, and I got a giant inflatable costume and dyed everything purple.
I love
and it was the
that.
big. So there are videos of that. Vacation Bible School is coming up again.
What color are you on?
I don't know, but Jace has requested. This is the first time he's requested that I be on his team for the first time.
Wow.
So they're pulling all the strings to make that happen. And so I've got to call and find out what color so I can start buying hair
Way
dyes
cool. Wow.
and whatever.
Well, you might have to
But
do a
that's
video on that.
There will be pictures. There will be video. The video, so they surprised me with it. I knew I had gone outside and there was a group serving refreshments to the kids, and one of the people I give a hard time all the time said, "Hey, I heard it's pretty interesting to watch you run in that suit because it's inflated big." And so I was like, "Yeah, watch. Let me show you." So I did it. I didn't know they had the video recorder recording. And so a few weeks or whatever period goes by, we're sitting in church on Sunday and they're showing highlights from Vacation Bible School. And then here goes the purple band run across the screen. And I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that was. And now to add to that, there's a large TV in the lobby and there's a reel that plays on that TV, and that is on the reel that plays in the lobby.
Well, I mean, what kid wouldn't want to hang out with a blue guy? I mean, you're fine. My husband's the same. My husband always had this rule with my kids for Halloween. He was like, "You pick the costume, I'll wear it."
I'm the same way.
And I'm like, oh, heck no. But he's that fun. And they've never really taken him up on it. Like, I'm like, you haven't given him like some embarrassing one. And they really haven't. They were being very kind. But you two are similar.
You should. Like, I can remember when I lived in Austin, I had a company. It was just a few months in. And I had an individual that had expressed interest to be a part of it. And he was way younger than me. He was just entering his career. He's super sharp, very motivated. I learned stuff from him. I don't know if he ever realized this or not, but I learned stuff from him every time we were together. I just enjoyed watching him. And so I flew he and his wife and their daughter out to Austin.
Yeah.
And so we had dinner, and then we had business meetings during the day, and then that afternoon we went out for a walk, and we were walking around the state capitol building in Austin, and the state capitol kind of sits up on a hill.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They try to elevate it to be the highest point in downtown. And while we were walking along the hill, my wife at the time, ex-wife, and his wife were walking behind us, and there were these kids rolling down the hill giggling. And you could kids laughing is just the most.
It's great.
Other than a dog looking at you, there's not much better.
Yep.
And they were just rolling down the hill laughing. And he was like, "Man, I miss those days. I wish we could do that." And I said, "Well, what's stopping us?" I'll race you on 3, 2, 1. I got to 1. I bounced on my side and I rolled down the hill. And I heard him giggling coming down the hill behind me. Both of our wives are like, what is wrong with you two? But we giggled like the kids all the way down. And it was fun. I realized why we don't do that, because when we got to the bottom, I'm a little bit older, so I hit a sprinkler and I didn't recover as well as one of the kids would have. But,
Yeah.
And he said that memory, he'll never forget that. Of everything he does for the rest of his life, he'll never forget. And I won't forget it either.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to do that. Life is too short.
Yeah.
None of us are getting out of here alive.
Yep.
Just have fun with it. Enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Sorry we talked for so long.
We
It
probably can
happens
still
every
keep.
time you and I are together.
I know, every time, and I will have to do it again because you got another book. Well, we didn't even get done. Like, ladies, you want to know what do you have in common with Paul? He actually bakes bread. So if you have any bakers out there, you get in the kitchen, he wears an apron, you're a baker. Yeah, so much so he's got this little you call it your little cottage bakery, right?
It's the cottage bakery. I have my cottage bakery stuff. My new job, I've been a little bit too busy to bake.
So great.
So we're a little bit behind, but I still do it. I enjoy it. When I fly into meetings in the corporate office, I bake cookies
That's so
and stuff
fun.
to take with, and it just makes people smile and happy. And so
For sure.
I enjoy doing it. There's the stories of the bakery are on the website too, carlsontx.com.
Well, we're going to have to talk about that for the next one because those are fun. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with me today. So we will put your information in the show notes. So people, your website that has all your socials. I would encourage you guys follow him, get on his Facebook group. It's a lot of fun. It's just lighthearted fun, but with some lessons. It's kind of cool. So thanks for being here today. And I won't say thanks for being a guest and nothing. I'll just see you next time.
Yeah, I can't wait. I love this. Is just when you said, "Hey, can we sorry, we have to re-record," it was like, okay. I enjoyed the last hour, and this. It's always great talking with you. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, back at you. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.